Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in today's video, we are yet again going to be continuing the discussion, talking more about the offensive line, specifically one player today, that player being Donovan Smith. But I am not alone in this discussion. Joining me today, for the first time ever on this YouTube channel, I think, maybe the second time, Taylor, I'm not sure, but it is Taylor Jenkins of the Pewter Report. Taylor, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing really good. Ready to talk some Bucs football. I was just trying to think. I was like, have I been on before? I know I believe we've done a podcast together, but I'm not sure if we've done it on the YouTube channel. But either way, glad to be here. I appreciate you having me on. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having, thanks for being on, rather, as always. And for everybody here who's just watching, who wants to get all of Taylor's social medias and things like that, as well as the Pewter Report podcast, I will have links to everything in the description, in the II card, in the top right hand of this video, as well as the comments section as well. So, yeah, Taylor, let's get started talking about Donovan Smith. And the first question I have for you to kind of start this discussion is, what have been your thoughts overall for Donovan Smith now that we are 5 games into this year? Because so far up to this point, I've been talking about it for multiple weeks now. In my opinion, he had 2 pretty good games, 1 game in the middle, and 2 pretty bad games. But I want your thoughts on that first here to start.
Yeah, I mean, that's really pretty accurate. The problem with Donovan Smith is he's just such a frustrating player because when he's playing well, I think he's really a suitable left tackle. He's obviously not a top 5 left tackle in the league. He's not what you would want optimally. He's not what you'd, be wishing for Christmas to have on your team. But I think when he's playing consistently, he's a good to pretty good left tackle. So I think keeping him around was far better than anything you would have had in free agency. He's far better than what the Bucs have backing him up. We know that. We've seen Josh Wells play there, and we've seen what it's like to have him in at left tackle. But again, the problem is consistency for Donovan Smith. When he's playing well, he's suitable. He's good enough to get the job done. He's played well in the run game this year. But the problem is when you look at him across the league compared to tackles, he's number 1 with 8 penalties. He's he's fourth, I think, with 3 sacks allowed. And that's really the problem, is when you have a low point at left tackle, it's a drive killer. When you have a holding penalty on first and second down, that's a drive killer. When you allow a sack on first or second down, that's a drive killer. So we've seen Donovan Smith have slow starts in the past, and you hope that he can bring back that consistency and string it together for a number of games. Any offensive lineman's going to have games where they struggle, but it's just stringing together plays, series, games to the point where he doesn't become such a weakness and such a hindrance for your offense, which I think he can be, and I think he's shown that he can be. But obviously, the more you hear a left tackle's name pop up in conversation, the worse it is for the offense, for the team, and for that player individually.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. And you alluded to this a second ago because, I'm sure you guys have been getting comments and things like that on social media as well. But, in the comments section, I've seen a lot of people talk about a lot of different ways to replace Donovan Smith. They never should have given him that contract. But, we started this conversation, last night, I believe I went back and I checked and saw the left tackles that were getting signed back, in 2019's offseason, the year whenever Donovan Smith signed that 3-year contract. And basically, Jason Light was forced to give Donovan Smith that extension.
Yeah.
There was nobody else. Even now, a lot of people have been talking about, well, they've got to replace him with somebody. I went and looked at the current list of, free agent left tackles out there. The only guy who you would even maybe come close to considering is Cordy Glenn. And he's missed, I believe, 20 games the past couple of seasons. So in terms of outside replacements right now, there's not a lot of people. And it's very frustrating because, like you said, that inconsistency is what's so frustrating about Donovan Smith as a player. And in terms of in-house replacements, there's nothing to be mentioned as well. And I want your thoughts on this because I've seen so many people throw out so many different things of, move Joe Haig over to left tackle, move Tristan Wirfs from the right side of the offensive line to the left side of the offensive line, do something, anything to replace Donovan Smith. But like, I feel like for the remainder of this season, the Bucs are just flat out stuck with Donovan Smith at left tackle. But I kind of want your thoughts about both outside replacements and, in-house replacements as well for Donovan Smith if he continues to show this inconsistency.
I mean, if the Bucs want to replace him, they're more than likely going to have to draft a left tackle because, I mean, you see it with guys like Joe Thomas. When you have a left tackle, they don't leave. It's one of the hardest positions. It's like quarterback. When you have one that works, you re-sign them and you keep them and they stay there because it's such a hard position to replace. And that's why when you look at Donovan Smith, he got that 3-year contract because there just aren't left tackles on the open market that are going to step in and play at the level Donovan Smith is when he's at his best. And so that's one of the things. You're going to have weaknesses on every team, and it's an unfortunate situation to have a weakness at left tackle, but we just know it could be so much worse. And I think one of the problems with that contract is that it was for so much money. I think he's in the top 5 for tackles or for left tackles in cap hit. He's in the top 5 for base salary, and you hate to give that to a guy that has those inconsistencies and commits the penalties he does, allows the sacks that he does, has the plays off, as people like to call it. But as far as in-house replacements, the way Tristan Wirfs has played at right tackle this year, which has been really phenomenal, not just for a rookie, but 4 tackles across the league. Tristan Wirfs has had a spectacular start to his rookie season and his career. So I just absolutely cannot see. I know he's had experience playing left tackle at Iowa, and he's done it. But when he's started so strong, I don't think it's advantageous to move him around, put a guy who hasn't been starting in at right tackle. I just don't think that's a really viable plan. I don't think it's a smart plan, because then you're going to try and make up a weakness by moving a guy who's been so strong at right tackle. So I think for the rest of the season, at least, you're going to have, barring injury, you're going to have Tristan Wirfs at right tackle. You're going to have Donovan Smith at left tackle. And you just have to hope that he can be more consistent and just raise his level of play as the season goes on, because the rest of the offensive line really has been strong. I mean, Ryan Jensen's been good. Alex Kappa has made a significant improvement. Like I said, Tristan Wirfs has been great. Ali Marpet is not just playing well, he's playing at an all-pro level. Mm-hmm. So you're lucky that Donovan Smith is the only real weak link, if you want to call him that. Mm-hmm. But as of right now, you just have to hope for him to step up and be more consistent throughout the rest of the year, because chances are he's going to be the option there for the rest of the season.
So kind of talking about the rest of the season then, like, because I understand the frustration, watching the Saints game and watching the Bears game. I'm sure you felt a very similar way. It was frustrating, just downright frustrating to not just see, the blocking kind of fall apart in certain situations, but I think what's more frustrating is the penalties. I think that is extremely more frustrating in my opinion. So for the remainder of this season, what do you think can be done in the immediate sense to hopefully at least try to get Donovan Smith in more of a consistent pattern of better play? Because, I've been talking about it all week, how there has to be some, coalition of Bruce Arians, Harold Goodwin, Byron Leftwich, and Tom Brady really sitting down, not just Donovan Smith, but also the other offensive line guys as well, and say, hey, we've got to be more disciplined. Otherwise, you can't win games like that. So what do you think needs to be done in terms of the remainder of this season to help out Donovan Smith?
I mean, you can leave tight ends in to block, I guess, to help him out a little bit, but you can't rely on a tight end sitting in to help for the entire season. As far as play goes, you've seen Donovan Smith have strong strings of play, and you really just have to hope that he steps it up and does it. Penalties are something that are completely avoidable. And Greg Auman tweeted these stats the other day about stalled drives. And these are penalties that are, I don't know what the right word is, penalties that are detrimental enough to the offense to stop a drive. Okay. And the Bucs lead the league with 15 of them, and I believe Donovan Smith leads the league with 5 of them by himself. So penalties are something that Bucs fans have seen this team beat themselves with for years now, and it's something that is completely avoidable and just has to stop. You can talk about the Bucs' woes in the running game. I think the running game has improved this year. We've seen that. Ronald Jones back-to-back 100-yard games. They've been a little more efficient. I think one of the things that you can do to help that is play calling for Byron Leftwich. Don't run against stacked boxes. And I think as the season has gone on already, he's done that a little better. He's throwing the ball a lot more in given pass situations, things like 1st and 10, things like 2nd and long. So that helps the run game. But penalties, I mean, they're the most penalized team in the league. They've given up the most penalty yards in the league. And penalties from the offensive line absolutely kill drives and kill offenses. So that's something that just can't happen. I'm sure Bruce Arians' accountability board is running out of paper and running out of space, because if this team wants to be a consistent competitor and actually make a valid playoff run, they cannot give drives away. They cannot give drives up, and they cannot move backwards. That series against the Bears, where there was about 3 or 4 penalties in the situation, they would have been backed up, I think, to 3rd and 37 if the penalty wasn't or 4th and 37 if the penalty wasn't declined, and they ended up punting. That was one of the ugliest series I've ever seen from Bucs football, and that's saying something. Yeah. So penalties are just something that have to be cleaned up, and that's one of the Bucs' biggest problems right now.
Mm-hmm. So how do you think you clean up those penalties then in terms of discipline? Does it just take kind of Tom Brady and the rest of the guys sitting down that offensive line and just kind of working more in terms of chemistry with them?
If you want me to be honest, I don't know how you go about fixing it. I mean, I just think that's on every one of them as individuals.
Okay.
You just have to eliminate it. If you're leading the league, that's just a problem individually with each player, and it has to be something that hashes out. If that's something they have to practice, if that's something they have to sit down and talk about. If you're 15th in the league, you sit down and you go, well, you had some penalties. That's unfortunate. Those are going to happen. Penalties are going to happen. Mm-hmm. But when you're leading the league, when you're killing drives, that's just something when you go up against teams like the Saints, when you go up against teams like the Packers, like the Chiefs later in the season, even teams like the Rams, against teams like the Vikings that can go out there and beat you on any given Sunday, you will ensure that you will lose if you continuously give teams free possessions by killing your own drives and putting yourself in 1st and 20 situations, putting yourselves in 2nd and 20 situations. Those are things that I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care who the weapons are. You cannot expect yourself to consistently overcome setting yourself back like that.
So kind of just to kind of put a bow on the remainder of this season, the question that I'm going to be, I guess, proposing to everybody here who's watching this video, and if you guys want to let us know your answers, let us know down rather in the comments section below. But the question I'm proposing, Taylor, is: are the Buccaneers stuck with Donovan Smith, not just for the remainder of this season, but for next season as well? So right now, in the immediate sense, in my opinion, I feel like yes, for the remainder of this season, the Buccaneers really don't have a choice but to play Donovan Smith for the remainder of the season. Do you see any scenario where Donovan Smith could potentially get benched?
No, not this season. I just really don't see it happening. I don't really know how they would replace him. Yeah. So, I mean, whether Bucs fans like it or not, whether the Bucs coaching staff likes it or not, whether Tom Brady likes it or not, I think the Bucs are stuck with Donovan Smith for the rest of the season. Like I've said 5 times, you just hope he cleans it up. You hope he can be more consistent. And we've seen him get better every year of his career. Mm-hmm. We've seen him have slow starts, but every year of his career, he's improved his play. He's given up less pressures. So you hope that he can continue to build on that, step up. But I think for the rest of the year, you're stuck with Donovan Smith, and he's got one more year on his contract, but the Bucs have no dead cap if they cut him after this year. So you work through this year. You hope he steps it up. And then when the time comes in December, January, February, whenever that is, you start looking at the draft. I'm not sure where the Bucs will be in a position to draft a left tackle, who's going to be available in this upcoming offseason. And I mean, one great thing about Donovan Smith is he's never injured. He plays through everything. He came out for a couple plays this season, and that's one of the biggest things you can ask from your left tackle. So that is a silver lining in the situation, that you rarely ever have to have one of those backups on the field. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be a staple at left tackle for the Bucs for the rest of this year at minimum.
Okay. And, you had just alluded to it, looking forward past this season as well, because Tom Brady will be the Buccaneers quarterback next year as well. Hopefully, unless something crazy happens, knock on wood for that one. But in terms of next year, you had mentioned no more dead cap. The Buccaneers could cut Donovan Smith and, save around, $14 million, 13.75, something along those lines. In terms of free agency, we mentioned it, there's not going to be a ton of options because the teams who have good left tackles, guess what? They're not getting rid of them. Even teams who have average to above average left tackles really can't afford to get rid of them.
Yeah.
It was the exact situation the Bucs were in, where, you're basically forced to keep these guys because that's such a hard position to replace. Like you said, looking more towards the draft is probably what route the Bucs are going to go. If Donovan Smith does continue to struggle, I think it would be safer to say that they would definitely probably look for his replacement this upcoming offseason.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it's all dependent. It's just like what we saw with Tom Brady landing with the Bucs. You look at the options you're provided, and if you feel like Donovan Smith is the better option, if you don't see one of these rookies in the draft fall to you at the right spot, if you don't see anyone hit free agency that you're comfortable with stepping up and being an upgrade, you're not going to find it. I mean, it's just plain and simple. You're not going to find a consistently healthy, consistently productive top 10 left tackle in free agency very often. And when you do, they're going to command an absolute amazing amount of money.
Yeah.
When
Yep.
the Bucs already have Chris Godwin, who they want to re-sign, they have Levante David, who they want to re-sign. You've got a number of guys that's contracts are expiring that they're going to have to figure out, and you know that they're all in on the next 2 seasons. So it may come down to Donovan Smith or one of the guys in the draft, but judging by where the Bucs are drafting, likely you expect them to be in the bottom half of the draft of the first round. So will they have a guy that can step up, and you can expect as a rookie to be better than what you've got at Donovan Smith? Because we always say the grass is always greener on the other side, but we know what Donovan Smith is at his best. And if he finishes the season strong and the Bucs feel like that's their best option, which he very well may be going into 21, you may see Donovan Smith back for the 3rd year of his contract next year.
Yeah, because it will be interesting. And Donovan Smith was a second-round draft pick in his own right, but it's such a tricky situation with left tackles, man, because
yeah, it is.
The
good ones don't become available, and so I mean, you just have to literally sit there and go, is he the best option we have? And I mean,
yeah,
if Donovan Smith can be a top 15 left tackle in the league, a top 12 left tackle for the rest of the league, I know it's not optimal, like I said, but can you really ask for more than that realistically? I mean, when you've got so many, I mean, you've got a really good defense in this young secondary, an amazing front seven, a ton of offensive firepower with Mike Evans and Tyler Johnson and Chris Godwin and Scotty Miller and Gronk, and unfortunately the injury to OJ, but then Cam Brate and Ronald Jones, who's really stepped up this year. You've got strength across the offensive line. You're going to have weaknesses on every team. For the Bucs, you looked at it coming into the season, and it was depth at an interior offensive lineman, depth at outside linebacker, depth at cornerback, a young safeties group with Mike Edwards, who hadn't performed particularly well last year and lost his job. So the Bucs really are lucky to not only at this point coming off of a semi-bye week, be healthy, be strong so far up and down the roster that, like I said, it stinks when you don't feel like your left tackle is as good as he could be, or the position in general. But again, if he can be a top 12, top 15 left tackle for the rest of the season, that's just one of the things that you have to succeed and work with and work around.
Right, because yeah, basically the point, for everybody watching this video, the point is, the point we're trying to make here is that, yes, it is frustrating, but quite frankly, I mean, this is really kind of the only Buccaneers' only option right now, not just for the remainder of this season, but going into free agency this upcoming off season, and then even potentially in the draft as well, depending on what happens there. If you're looking for a replacement for Donovan Smith, and I know some people have pointed to the Trent Williams thing. We're not going to get into the Trent Williams trade thing, stuff like that, because it would take too much time. But the point is that right now, in the immediate sense, no, Donovan Smith really probably isn't going to get benched. This upcoming offseason, the only thing that you would expect is maybe something in the draft. Taylor, one more question right now. For the remainder of this season, with all of the inconsistencies, do you think that Donovan Smith can play like a top 15 to 12 tackle in the league?
I do. Absolutely. He's gone through a gauntlet the Bucs offensive line has with, I mean, just some incredible pass rushers they've faced in the beginning of this year. I mean, you've seen him face Cam Jordan, you've seen him face Khalil Mack, you've seen him face Nick Chubb. So, I mean, we've seen Donovan Smith string together good, consistent play in the past. We've seen his inconsistencies. You know what Donovan Smith is at this point. So you just hope he can be his best. And at his best, I think he is a top 12, top 15, borderline top 10 left tackle in this league. It's just the down plays that absolutely kill drives, especially if they're at the wrong time. It's the penalties that kill drives. So you hope he can cut down the penalties, play at his peak for the rest of the season. And I really don't think if he's doing that, you're that bad off at left tackle.
All right. Well, there you have it, guys. Taylor, thank you so much for being a part of this video. Greatly appreciated, my friend. And thank you for contributing here to the Donovan Smith conversation. I'm going to be honest. I'm still personally very frustrated with him with the penalties and the inconsistent play. But, I mean, all you can do is
that's completely understandable.
Yeah. I mean, but like you said, all you can do is just hope he gets better. You know, and that's really the only thing that Bucs fans can do right now in this situation. So, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. Give us your thoughts about the entire Donovan Smith situation down in the comments section below about, you know, maybe in-house replacements, out-of-house replacements, you know, future off-season replacements, how you expect Donovan Smith to do for the remainder of this season, and how you think Donovan Smith has done so far up to this point. Taylor, again, thank you for being on, man. Greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, dude. Love coming on. Love talking Bucs football. So, again, I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks so much, man. And for everybody watching this video, like I said, I will have links to the Peter Nation podcast, Taylor's social medias, and everything else in between down in the comment section below, as well as the II card in the top right and the description as well. But again, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. We will see you in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now. And go Bucs!